Welcome to Old and Outlandish, This Life's Journey. Well, my wife Heidi and I hopefully aren't all that old. Hopefully we're not all that outlandish. But we do some things that a lot of people our age wouldn't consider doing, like taking a trip to Alaska for 7 weeks in our camper. In this series, we're going to talk about our trip from Minnesota all the way to North Dakota. Well, our first stop in Minnesota was at the Laura Ingalls Wilder Museum in Walnut Grove, Minnesota. Heidi and I both wanted to stop there because we both grew up watching Little House on the Prairie, and my mom read me the whole series of Laura Ingalls Wilder books when I was a kid. Well, this is a picture of the actual family, Laura and her pa and ma. And then the next picture here is a picture of the dugout, or a replica of the dugout where they lived on the banks of Plum Creek. And then finally we have a Conestoga wagon that was very similar to the one that they used to travel across the U.S. to get to the Little House on the Prairie. It was a great stop, and we highly recommend it if you're into Little House. So a lot of the scenery around Minnesota is similar to Iowa, Indiana, and Illinois. There's a lot of crops, a lot of corn, a lot of soybeans, and there's a lot of windmills, just like there were in Illinois. And it really surprised me how many windmills there were. Well, this is where Toby spent 98% of his time on the trip, and that was at our feet. Well, our ending part of Minnesota was on a road construction project that was just a precursor to the many, many miles of road construction that is yet to come once we got into British Columbia and in Alaska. So we finally made it to South Dakota, got out of the road construction, and then we drove through several lakes and a lot of fields that had little small ponds in them. What we learned was the water table is actually rising in South Dakota, and in some places there's a lot of ponds in fields where the water just can't escape because of that groundwater rising. So over the last several decades, South Dakota has been getting an increased amount of rainfall. They used to be known for their wheat production, but now they're getting plenty of rainfall for corn and soybeans as well. The farther west you get, the more and more canola that you see. The size of these fields in South Dakota and in North Dakota just amaze me. It seems like they just go on and on for miles, and all you can see is canola. What a beautiful flower. The colors just pop against the sky. Started to get into seeing some of the oil wells as well. They started to pop up across the countryside. And well, we made it into North Dakota. And one of the first things that we did was travel the Enchanted Highway. The Enchanted Highway is a 32-mile stretch of highway in North Dakota that features giant scrap metal sculptures created by artist Gary Greff. So the sculptures were designed to revitalize his hometown, and he had a hotel that is there at that castle, and it was kind of to draw people into the hotel. So they had the dinosaurs, and we are going backwards on this. We really should be going from north to south, and we're going south to north. But they had these sculptures like the deer, the dragon, the grasshoppers here, and then Heidi even got to ride on a grasshopper, and that was kind of a fun little moment. But you keep going down the highway, and all these different sculptures appear. This sculpture of the fish was really probably my favorite. When you look at it, it's just amazing, the detail. And then you can kind of see like the little weeds there, the cattails, and then you can see the fish and just how massive they are. Then you can see the water line here and the boat. So all these fish are underneath it, and then this guy's catching this one fish. Just an incredible, incredible sculpture, all made out of scrap metal. Then these birds were probably my second favorite. I thought they were just really incredible. But you just drive down the highway for 32 miles and you see like 11 or 12 of these different sculptures that are in that 32-mile period. Just simply amazing that somebody would think to do this and spend that much money to try to revitalize their hometown and get people to come to it. just an incredible time, and I think it would be awesome to take kids there. There were several of these old threshing machines that were sitting on hilltops. I bet we saw 10 of these old threshing machines just parked on top of hills. Really a cool thing to just see the old technology sitting there next to the corn and soybeans that were grown today. Then here's another sculpture just right across from there. It just kept coming. This was a cowboy on a horse. And again, we're looking at it from the backside, so it's not quite as neat as the front. And we didn't have a ton of time, so we weren't able to stop at every single sculpture and get it, because it was starting to get dark and we wanted to get to our campsite before dark. So there's just another sculpture, just really kind of an incredible thing. Well, the surprise on our trip was Painted Canyon. I was not expecting this. This was something that I missed on the map and was not even expecting to see anything quite this gorgeous in North Dakota. It was just absolutely breathtaking. I'm so glad that we saw the sign and that we stopped. And there's plenty of hiking trails, and you can also drive through the canyon. And I think it would be well worth your time if you ever were in North Dakota to just spend a day or two checking out the Painted Canyon. Our last state in the U.S. was Montana. Welcome to Montana. So we had been driving for days and days and days and seeing nothing but corn and soybeans and farmland. And then now we're into some of the largest fields I have ever seen. And we started to realize why Montana is called the Big Sky Country. The sky and the fields just seem to go on and on and on as far as the eye can see. It just amazes me how open this country is. And just when you thought you had nothing to look at, we passed this train. The train, and Heidi, he actually blew his horn and kind of scared Heidi as she was driving when he came up behind us. But we passed him several times. We waved, he would wave, and he'd stop and pick up people, and then he'd end up passing us again, and we'd wave again. At our campground, we had this little prairie dog. There were several prairie dogs there, and it was just fun to watch them, and it was fun to see them driving Toby crazy as he was trying to figure out what was going on with the prairie dogs. He'd look down a hole, prairie dog would pop up behind him, and then finally the prairie dogs would go back down the hole again. I didn't get video of that, but I did get video of this prairie dog. Well, we went into the beautiful town of Shelby, Montana. And Shelby just had all these neat old signs, neat old storefronts. And then we ate at a restaurant that was called the Roadrunner Cafe, and it was in a bowling alley. And it was some of the best food that we have had in a long time. It was really good. Well, it was time to go ahead and rest, and Toby was ready for bed. And then we had to get up the next morning, empty the camper, and get ready for our trip into Canada. Well, we hope you've enjoyed Old and Outlandish, This Life's Journey. Stay tuned for more of our trip to Alaska.